Wow, you have to watch this interview I just did with my dear friend Christopher Life, because we broke so much down that I think is going to really help you to make sense of your life. We talked about purpose and how to know what your purpose is, why you're here, what's yours to do. We broke down politics and what is our individual role in it? Why is it important for us to be involved? How can we be involved in a way that really makes sense for us? And how does that fit into the world of politics today? Especially when it just seems to be all entertainment out there. What's actually the real about what's ours to do when it comes to politics? And then at the very end, we make you a very special invitation that you are not going to want to miss.
Hi, Ellie.
Hi.
I'm Christopher Life. And I think that the word purpose is a good place to start. It's a word that is used a lot. Some like to dissect words to kind of get inside and around them. And my definition of purpose is closing the gap between what you see as possible and what you're experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
So a word that you can ask yourself to go deeper into your purpose is, what of the undone is mine to do next?
Right.
It's a perfect calibration right into purpose, because we're all perceiving gaps between how the world is and how the world could be at all different scales, from like, oh, I should wipe the table down,
or
to like,
somebody should wipe the table.
the table should be wiped down. That's exactly right.
Somebody should wipe that table down.
Right. And then the largest scales of like, oh my gosh, we've got like ecological devastation because of a whole myriad of problems. Like, so there's all these scales of things that need to be sorted out. And I do actually, at a spiritual level, I do believe that we're all interconnected as like a human family of intelligence that has some type of like psychic connection through that system.
Mycelium.
Yeah. And that there's like a field of intelligence that we're actually all a part of. And so to the degree that you or others believe that that's true, I feel like we each then have some kind of function, some kind of service to that larger system that maybe isn't just totally arbitrary or random. And so when people say like, what is my purpose? I think what they're ultimately saying is, what's the unique way that I can serve the whole that I'm a part of? It's just a different way of saying it, but I think it's more supportive.
It's really what I'm calling the collective purpose. Like each person has that collective, the way that they're here to give to the collective.
Which I would say those are synonymous. So purpose and collective, that's one and the same.
Yeah.
Your purpose is what you're doing that's creating a unique type of value in the world that wouldn't have existed in the same way had you not shown up to serve in that way.
And you see it by the thing, oftentimes what I heard you say is oftentimes by the thing you're judging. You didn't say it in those words.
Correct. Yeah, exactly.
But it's a great pointer.
Yeah. So we judge reality as being wrong, which is the way that we're actually perceiving how we think reality could be better.
Yes.
And we perceive a lot of it, and not everything that you see that could be better, you could actually do something about. Sometimes we lose track of that. We're like, oh my God, all the ways I want to see the world a better place. Like, I'm overwhelmed. Okay, notice it. That's actually an important part of your context for your calibrating deeper into your purpose. Once you see the field of what's undone, then you can start to notice of all of that, what is yours to do,
uniquely mine,
right? Which is a combination of what you feel inspired by, and what your heart yearns for, and what you do when you're not thinking about doing anything, and what you're good at, right? Ikigai is kind of a concept here.
Yeah, I'm gonna add a piece.
Yeah, bring it.
What you've inherited.
Yeah.
Is a huge, for
me.
Yeah.
It's a part of the whole equation.
It's been a huge pointer to exactly what we're talking about, right. Like the uniqueness of my heritage, of what my parents passed down to me inadvertently oftentimes, but is actually mine to do, because this body is the one that can heal it. This emotional field is the one that can heal it and close that gap.
Yeah, so I feel like we all have some type of unique assignment or value we can create. Yeah. And as we hone more perfectly into what that is and how we express it and when we express it and to whom we express it to, we're getting more perfectly calibrated to the freaking sweet spot right in the center of our purpose. Yeah. Which I believe is what we've actually been designed to do. So it actually feels really enjoyable when you use your gear well, right? Yeah.
I have often felt that actually, like, I need to learn how to use these tools better.
Yeah, totally. I've got all these capabilities, but you got, and Yeah, and that's the metaphor of like the superhero or X-Men. It's like we're all have these super capabilities, but we have to like refine them to make them useful. Because
Yes,
our capabilities, non-refined, are actually destructive.
totally.
So to
Yeah.
kind of bring this whole thing around purpose into a close, so the more clear we are
Yeah.
on how we want to serve, the more we can serve in that way.
Mm.
And I think that all people have a part of their psychological experience that's inventorying how deep in their purpose they are.
Mhm.
And so when people are far out of that, I think the part of their subconscious that's actually inventorying that is producing information that the conscious mind is then disassociating from
Mm.
because it's feeling like more disconnected and
Mm.
more apathetic and more lethargic in its own like internal apathy because it's like suffering,
Yeah.
like a rotting fruit on the vine that's
Mm.
not getting the water that it needs,
Mm.
because being in purpose is a vital and critical psychological nutrient to overall well-being.
Yeah.
And our world, I think so many facets of our world, unfortunately through design, are actually disassociating people from their purpose.
Yeah.
Because people aren't connected to their purpose, are more submissive, and they're more consumers, and they'll buy the thing, and they'll take the thing, and they'll do the things that make the other people the things they're looking for. So we need to heal the fact that we've so much disassociated from purpose, from first like acknowledging the way that we might feel like we're out of alignment with ourselves. First admit that you're sick and then you can be healed, and then starting to make a commitment to change our lives in ways that allow us to more align with like serving in the way we want to serve, with our unique gifts and characteristics, in a way that's inherently fulfilling and inspires us. Like every human can be vectoring towards that experience of purpose. And when we all do that, then we all kind of awaken as these like synergistic human worker bees that all start to collaborate organically and coherently to do what? To assemble a better experience of reality for all of us. That's what we're all ultimately going towards. So the deeper we go into purpose, and the more of us that are deeper in that unique purpose, the more robust we are
Yeah.
in metabolizing the world as it has been and enabling and creating the world that we want to create.
Yeah. Thank you.
How's that? How to do on purpose?
So good. So good. And there's so many people who I feel I come into contact with who can't even imagine thinking of that because their own personal needs are so not met.
Right.
And I think that's where I feel that my unique purpose comes in myself, is really giving people the tools to get beyond that scarcity way of being, because purpose isn't available
Right.
from that place of thought and reality. And what I have found, and I've seen it through you, and I've seen it through me, and I've seen it through a number of other people, that when we are on purpose, life shows up with the resources.
Mhm.
And oftentimes it's just in the nick of time. It's like I feel like I have to like prove to life I'm worthy. I'm going to keep going. And I trust you're going to provide what I need. And then time and time again, like I do my part and life meets me to provide just what I need. And I'm curious if you've also, well, I know you've had that experience because I've seen it. So do you want to share about that at all?
So there's one little distinction I want to share to kind
Perfect.
of bring this purpose piece to a close is we all have full access to purpose. And I think that there is a transition point of privilege
Mm.
where your purpose shifts from enabling your own survival and the survival of the people that are depending on you versus being able to support the survival and thrival and improvement
Yes.
of a larger field. So the person who's like waking up and is like fighting to survive,
Yes.
and they're doing all the things they need to survive, they're actually on purpose relative to
Totally.
enabling their
Yes.
survival.
To where they are.
Right. Unless they start to actually, become an addict or do something, then they start to actually lose purpose from even doing the survival thing
Yeah.
well.
Right.
Right. So there's a
That's not,
full,
yeah, that's like
that's
not,
rough.
yeah,
That's rough. Right.
it's like below survival.
So we're all, so I just want to restate that we're all have full access to purpose. And that's a nutrient and medicine that I am, that I am so inspired to participate
Hmm.
in enabling the arrival of a culture that that has people have the experience of being so richly in their purpose.
Yeah.
That's what I want, like almost it's like a fantasy that I
Yeah.
have,
I love that.
and that I can play a role
Mm.
in helping people find a deeper connection to their own purpose and express in the world that feels actually satisfying and fulfilling, because I know that's going to make their life so much better, and I know it's going to make everybody's life so much better, because all true purpose only improves
Yeah.
the whole system that we're a part of.
Life just keeps getting better. Like, so I'm really excited to tell you something because I don't
Okay.
think I've shared this with you.
Okay.
But literally, the core of my model on financial liberation is this 4-stage spiral path. And at each turn of the wheel fits exactly with what you just said. Because the first turn of the wheel is that people get to learn how to generate what they need when they need it on demand in alignment with their values. And that meets my individual and my dependents needs, minimum to thrive. And then at the second turn of the wheel, after you've learned how to steward what you have and detach from what you've created and go through this transformational dilemma to like come around the wheel again and celebrated how far you've gotten, now ideally you come to a next level of capacity where it's not just about meeting my own needs, it's also about meeting the needs of my ecosystem. So it's me and then we at the need level. And then at the next turn of the wheel, it is what I want. Now, because my needs are met and the ecosystem's needs are met, I can now have what I want. And then the fourth turn of the wheel, which I've been calling no limits and I didn't know what it was, is the next level of we. It's I have what I want and we have what we want. And ultimately, the paradise would be for everyone to be able to live in that no limits reality of I have what I want. And you have what you want, and we have what we want.
I think that's the perfect segue into talking about paradise.
Yes.
Because ultimately, like, it seems pretty exciting, this like idea that we could live in a world, a reality, a community, a global community where everybody could really have what they want. Like that's like the most like exciting idea imaginable.
Who doesn't
right?
want
Like
that?
that's like really so right. So who doesn't want that, right? You heard how you said that, right? So I believe that there's a fabric of understanding in which everybody ultimately is in service to one purpose. That what you just described, I believe, is the common unifying purpose of all people. And that if they go deep enough into the why and the why and the why, okay, I want to do this. Well, why do you want to do it? Well, because of this. Well, why do you? Well, because of, that if you take the why all the way down, that they'll ultimately come down to the conclusion of, well, I just want a better world for all.
Emotionally healthy people.
Sure.
There are people
Yeah.
that are not emotionally healthy that I don't believe that that's true for.
Okay, great.
I think emotionally healthy people, and I think that when I got that about myself, I became emotionally healthy. And I think that there was a time when I wasn't sure. I didn't know that I wanted that. It wasn't conscious that I wanted
So
that.
order of operations number one is to support people in becoming emotionally healthy.
Yes.
Once they're emotionally healthy,
yes,
they'll probably naturally come to this conclusion.
It's true.
Yeah. And so,
It's really true.
So then you can say that to that degree that it's this rally point. It's this opportunity for us to all like declare our common interest in a really formal way. And that's like, business deals can be like, oh, okay, we can like collaborate. And there's a moment in time where they like formally declare their common interest. And that enables a partnership that enables some synergy that didn't exist when they were just like doing their own thing.
Right.
So there's something really powerful as we consciously, collectively declare that we're aligned with the same thing. And the like new age community will use the term like heaven on earth. And I like the term paradise because there's something practical about paradise. Like heaven on earth is kind of like ethereal and like angels and gold and harps and stuff. But paradise is like here where we're in like bodies with time and we're dealing with a lot of the same
nature.
We're dealing with a lot of the same constraints of this reality,
Mm-hmm.
but with a higher level of consciousness experiencing it.
Mm.
So it's like here, and there's still gravity, and you can still like trip and like sprain your ankle.
It's the 3D world.
It's the 3D
It's
world.
the 3D world version of
expressed at the like the highest
level
of potential.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's really exciting because I feel like that's our purpose, is to thrive in a really tangible, practical, dare I even say mundane way. So that's just when I say paradise, I'm not like saying like some like high-end ungrounded concept. I'm using it as a technical term to define a state of our world in which essentially everybody has access to choosing what they want.
It's the most important thing.
It seems that way.
To me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really does. And it is what I feel that I have lived and known for so long. It's the householder's path, right? Like ultimately, we came here not to live in a cave, and learn to transcend reality that way. We came here to live in these bodies and these families and deal with money and calendars and time. And so it's really what I hear you speaking to is the householder's path.
I haven't heard that terminology. But yeah, when you look at the course of human history, it's like a very long time ago, we didn't have like dental care, which kind of is relevant, or it was like hard to stay warm when it was really cold. And we've kind of like been moving on this path for better or for worse, because there's been some kind of like maybe unintended consequence along the way. We like did the like, indoor plumbing thing, and we did the, like put our feces not next to where we are so we don't get disease thing, and we did the electricity thing and the metal along the way, and then like circuit boards, and like we've been doing all these things that if you zoom out, you realize that at a collective level, we've been systematically improving the quality of life. Again, there's been some ways that's been pathologized and some hiccups along the way, but in a grander sense, that's where the trend's going.
Yeah.
So I just want to remind us that this isn't like a new idea. We've literally been on this project for millions of years, right? We're not just thinking, like, this is actually in our core genetics to be paradise makers, and we've been just like vectoring towards it from the very beginning.
Yeah.
So if we look at that whole landscape, this is all we've been ever doing, folks. We're experts at this. We're perfectly designed to do this, right? So now we apply that towards this present moment with that full confidence that we're here to make the world a better place. We're here to create solutions where there weren't solutions. We're here to notice anything from inconveniences to forms of suffering that we don't want to have, or ways that we don't want to die. Like there's all these ways we're like noticing and then like crushing it at creating these amazing solutions. So why would we think that we aren't able to break through the limitation of this moment in time, right? We've been doing it the whole time.
Yeah.
So that's like the kind of point to leave on this point is to assert and to transmit confidence that this is completely possible for us to collaborate at the scale of millions and millions of people who are all awakened in their own individual purposes, that are just kicking open doors of like a better future reality and just creating those corridors and channels for us to run through. And I believe that we're on the cusp of a radical acceleration of improvement of quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually like wholesome, not like AI did it for me, but like a wholesome experience.
The whole experience.
Yeah. And that so many people are looking, understandably so, out into the future and just seeing this dystopic collapse. Yeah. And I completely understand why the math equation would point towards that. And that it can be really scary.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people are in like some degrees of like depression or suicidal tendencies or anxiety, because a part of their subconscious is just never endingly looking off in the future and be like, oh, fuck. Totally. This is looking bad, people, right? And I'm not here to say I've got a crystal ball, but what I'm here to say is that I personally believe that it's actually about to become the opposite.
Yeah.
And we're going to hockey stick up towards improvement of quality of life. And I believe that the choice is ours, that we are actually at a choice point. And what we're actually going to be choosing is, are we choosing the dystopic path or are we choosing the utopic path?
Mm.
And to realize that as creators, we are making this choice together. And so I'm wanting to affirm and invite and challenge and inspire and evangelize for us making this choice together, that we are choosing to enter into the possibility scenario of a rapid improvement of quality of life for all people and an improved quality of natural living systems in all parts of the world. And that we will have a less amount of harm and a less amount of unnecessary suffering and death, and an improvement of efficiencies and an improvement of delight.
Yes,
And
that's
that
my
all
favorite.
those
Delight.
things are coming.
Yeah.
And we get to participate
Yeah.
by choosing it
Yeah.
fully and completely.
Yeah.
And we choose it at like a transactional level inside of ourselves, like almost like a personal moment of ritual. Like you choose to be married, that's a moment in time. You can ritualize, like, that is the timeline for the future of humanity that I am choosing as an act, as an acute act. And you keep choosing it, you embody that choice every moment that you bring your true purpose service into the world. And so then you choose it through action all the way through. And then you get to participate in choosing it, that it occurs, and you get to participate in building it with every one of your forthright service-based choices that you make. You're into that.
I'm so into
You're
it.
into that.
I'm so
Right?
into it.
Right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
It just feels so natural.
It's made my life worth living,
Right.
because there was a long time where I did not actually feel that my life was worth living.
Mhm.
And this context for life made my life worth living.
Mm.
And I think that's what it does for people,
Mhm.
because we actually can feel how we are impacting and influencing life, even if it's at the tiniest level. Like, you don't have to do a lot. That's the thing that I've really liked with it as well. Like, I do a lot,
Mhm.
but I've also been at times in my life where I got to be really patient with myself and know that the healing work that I was doing internally and with my relationships was exactly it. That was enough for
Mm.
that time.
Deeply purposeful.
Deeply purposeful, because I knew that each choice I was making was leading me closer to being this person who is experiencing paradise regularly,
Mhm.
my version of
Mhm.
paradise
Mhm.
regularly, other than we haven't gotten to the everyone having what they
Mhm.
want.
Mhm.
And I know that's just a choice away. Like, I actually believe
Mhm.
and have a gnosis about that it is really truly a choice away for each person. And now I've seen it over so many years. And so, thank you.
You're welcome.
So, I want to talk about a really hard choice. It was a hard choice for me, maybe easy for you, to embrace the political path
Yeah.
as important towards exactly what we've been talking about.
Right.
And that I actually have a purpose within politics, which I totally did not think, and took a lot of years really of seeing you be committed to it and me being like, what, why this, no. And then, talking to other people, and oh, it's a fool's errand, and just all the ways that people feel about politics. And I really had to come into my own around it, because if I, the people out there were not supportive in my life. But watching you and your commitment to it, and I get it. I get it now. So how did it happen and why?
You want to talk about politics?
I want to talk about politics.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a really good way.
Yeah, let's talk about politics
Yeah.
in a really good way. So some species live by themselves. Like a gecko kind of can do his own thing. Other species require populations to be able to survive. Like gorillas do their thing together, and you know. So humans are one of those types. So we actually are designed biologically and genetically to do things together in groups. So in the very core of our genetic foundation that informs this basically is like where politics lives. Because to be able to work in a group to achieve some common goal and to maintain some type of coherence of a relational system and structure and norms and best practices that enable something like order to occur, which order is necessary for value creation, then you got to sort that piece out. And then over time, we move from like clans and tribes to like larger settlements. Because when we expand the quantity of people that we're collaborating with, we increase the capacitation of that population. So it can like do like swords and, grain uh, at this scale, and it can only do like, a rock. So we were capacitating. So, so politics is the process of being able to collaborate at a scale and make choices together. So we've kind of innovated with these different forms of politics over the evolutionary journey of humanity.
I just have to pause you there for a
Okay.
moment because I just got something of like, okay, I make my individual choice and then I'm able to make choices with others.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll zoom right kind of into there. So we've kind of gone through this journey. So now we're working where before we worked at scales of like 40 or 50 in a tribe. Now we're working at the scales of 300 million people, right? And then we have international collaboration with all other people. So we're actually really talking about 8 billion plus people governance.
Yeah, I think we're at 9 now, maybe.
So we are at the edge of this evolutionary journey where we're actually governing a larger quantity of people than we've really actually figured out how to do well.
Right.
So when we think about politics, I want to bring it into that level of like grounded profundity.
Yeah.
This isn't like who do you vote for? I mean, it includes that, but it's like it's that we are governing ourselves at scale to enable our collective capacitation that enables us to move closer towards paradise. That's what I want you to think about when you think about politics, right? And then the Greek root of politics, the word polis, which is the center, which is the area in the center of the town, that people leave their individual affairs, or they're making their own individual choices, to then come together to make sense of what's going on and then to make choices together. So politics is about making sense and making the best possible choices. And we get closer towards paradise, the more people are making better choices. So that's the root of what politics is. And then government becomes an institutional apparatus that ultimately enables that to be enacted, like in form through bureaucratic, administrative, functional channels. So politics is like the spirit and the intelligence of the desire and intent to collaborate. And then government is like the hardware and the infrastructure for how that lands. So there's our little 101 on politics and government.
It's great. It has me want to be more involved.
Oh, great.
So I lean in. Say, yes, I want to make better choices individually and with my community.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, who doesn't want that?
Yeah, that's great, right? It's inspiring.
Yeah. Why would we not want that?
Like there's this thing called citizen assemblies, which is this innovation on governance that is like a fourth branch of government, right? We have legislative, executive, and judicial. But a citizen assembly is this notion that we create a whole fourth branch of government that is citizens processing information that are called to do so, just like kind of like jury duty. And you create proportional representations of demographics that then process issues like vocationally for like a couple of weeks and then produce a greater level of insight because there's like full like empathy and connection intact as they're like actually facilitated to listen to each other's perspectives because they're not just on like social media like polarized warfare. And so they can make a choice for their community. And people come out of these experiences feeling like this like huge upliftment of like dopamine and purpose, and they're feeling considered, and they realize that they matter,
Yeah.
because they're actually in situations where their perspective in that group really matters to shift and perfect the conversation. So that's just in an assembly. So I say all of that for a lot of different reasons. One, because one of the things that we get to do to improve the quality of our governance is to increase the participatory nature of it. And so this like interest that you have, like leaning in, right? That energy, that just so happens to be the single most important thing that we need, is we need to be able to open up the political process that allows the vast majority of people to meaningfully and significantly participate in an authentic way in the governance of the collective. And our experience of government has been limiting in that regard, because, and I think there's a couple different reasons for that. I think that the powers that be stay in power more easily and have less checks on what they want to do to aggregate more personal power, the more disconnected the average citizen is from the political process. So I feel like it's a bit engineered for the narratives and the process to actually lead people to be dissuaded from involvement. So we need to solve that problem. When we get a higher level of engagement and participation, and it increases accountability and it increases transparency and increases the way that people are engaged in the public process, then we start to be able to bring a positive tide
Mm.
in.
Mm.
So if we can tell a new story that helps to create a new facet of culture that leaves people authentically desiring to get more involved, while we're innovating the system to create innovations of governance and reforms that structurally create the interface for those new people to actually get involved in a more meaningful way, then we've bridged the gap
Mm.
on a really big piece, and we've healed this way that the average person is disassociated from the political process.
Mhm.
And we've tied, Peter Pan's shadow back onto himself. We've reconnected surgically this like disconnect between the average person and their feeling of meaningful participation in the governance systems they're a part of.
Yeah.
And that coming together, I think, unlocks a renaissance of civic engagement, because that feeling that you just had that was delicious, imagine if you kept feeling that.
Yeah.
Then you'd want to do more things that
Totally.
had you feel more that way.
Yeah. Yeah, and so for the people who know, like their unique purpose, their collective purpose, their thing to do is to like help to improve quality of life of the people in their community. I think they'd be really satisfied by what you're talking
Mm-hmm.
about, this ability to participate
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in the government, in politics in a way that made sense for them. I would say that a lot of people have don't okay, great. I love the idea, but what?
Right. Right. So first, I want to take the word politics. Like,
Yeah.
if this is government,
Yeah.
okay, and then we think that like, okay, politics is this like energy that like goes into government.
Yeah.
I want to take that energy, I want to spread it out wider.
Mhm.
So the people that care about improved agriculture,
Mhm.
they care about improving the quality of the
Yeah.
world. That's the politics. The politics is that you want to improve something
Mm.
that makes the world a better place.
Mhm.
It's not that it's happening in the channels of government.
Ah.
So we're all so political because we're seeing the better world that we want to create,
Got
and
it.
we're vectoring towards that, and we're creating collaborations, and we're bringing resources, and we're making rules for how this happens. So we're politically acting through all those channels. So the first point is that most people who think, oh, I'm not very political, but I really care about a better future for all. Step number one, you're political. And the thing that you care about is a way that you're contributing to. So all of us who are working towards this better future are all very, very political. We're not disassociated from politics. We might apply it in channels outside of government. But here's the thing. If you go down your corridor of value creation, some innovation on energy, or some innovation on healing, or some innovation on nutrition, or whatever it is, you can only go so far down that before it's actually going to come and intersect government.
Mm.
Because it's going to have to do with a policy, it's going to have to do with an up-leveling of something that, in order for our innovations to really hit scale, they're going to intersect with government in one way or another. So we need to make sure that we're not averse to that collaboration, right? Imagine if a person says, I've got a healing modality that would heal help everybody to experience less trauma or whatever. And they're just wanting to like share that with people, but they think they're not political. And imagine that the mayor is sitting in City Hall at the same moment thinking to himself, I really want to help my community heal from trauma, but I have no idea how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So if this person just turned around and realized they were more political and started having conversations with city council people, started having conversations with their mayor, they could realize the very thing that they want to create value around can actually be created in relationship with the public institutions and the administration.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's this renaissance of civic engagement, is that we all realize how we can all work together to be able to deploy the ways that we want to innovate and improve reality together more effectively.
Because really the government has the opportunity to deploy the resources.
Yes.
At the end of the day,
Yeah.
We all have like our little, our own individual
Well, let me say it in a slightly
realities.
different way.
Yeah.
The government is the collective mechanism for making choices together.
Mm-hmm.
That's the most and one of the choices that we make is how that government apparatus pools resources and spends them.
Mm-hmm.
But what's baser than it's where the resources are is it's the mechanism of collective choice making. So we have to remember that. So we're connected to like the root principle, and from that place we can better be empowered in all of what we could then do as government. What are all the different ways we want to make choices together?
Let's talk for a minute about voting.
Great.
And if that is relevant to this whole context here of paradise and doing our part and participating, but voting is so broken in our current reality. So is that even a valid form of participation?
Yeah, so let's talk about this for a quick sec. When we're talking about voting in this situation, there's legislative voting, right? What are the rules that we manage this? And there's electoral voting, who's in charge or has stewardship, right? These are two different categories of voting. So relative to this category of voting, if in almost all mammalian populations where there's like a alpha character, the steward in charge, they basically stay in power until they're killed. So like violence is the mechanism of regime change, basically throughout the entire animal kingdom and through the entire human kingdom up until basically the advent of democracy. So I just want to say that to create context.
Yeah, it's good.
So what voting is this like non-violent, civilized version of doing the thing we've always been doing, which is making a choice of who's in charge, if you will, or who's stewarding our public institutions, to say it in a more accurate way. And in this situation, only like the rival male was the only one making that choice. They weren't like all like working together collectively.
Right.
But in this more civilized version, everybody gets to participate, not just the people that are like better at inflicting violence on other people.
Right.
So that's cool too. So more people are involved and involved in a non-violent civil way. So I think we should really celebrate that as a huge innovation for humanity as a part of our evolutionary journey towards paradise. So in our current governmental structure, the people that we vote for have a direct role in determining the rules of how we collectively govern and the budgets of how we deploy resources or how we acquire resources even. Mm-hmm. So you're really voting for like an alpha steward character of your community, your county, your state, whatever context we're talking about. So I think it matters to play a role in participating in making that choice. Now, just because we vote quantitatively now doesn't mean we're always going to do it the same way, because this whole process is evolving. So a simplified version of making a choice together non-violently, okay, everybody write your thing and throw it in the hat, right? We kind of figured this out a while ago. So that's like the simplified version. But the more sophisticated version of voting and making a choice together is everybody expresses what matters to them qualitatively, not quantitatively. You express what you're worried about, what you want to improve in your community, the qualities of leadership that matter to you, the background of the leader that you'd be inspired to get behind. Like, it's all qualitative input. And with the advent of AI, we have the ability to actually synthesize all this qualitative data. So I believe that we're actually right on the cusp of a complete evolution of the voting process, where we're inputting our qualitative insights into a technological synthesis generator that then helps to reveal the true intent, not reduced to votes, that's a distorted reflection of what people actually care about in an oversimplified context, which is appropriate until we have the ability to then actually perfect our collective choice making process by synthesizing qualitative data. So I say all of that so you can be like, oh, maybe won't it be so fun to like vote in this quantitative way, like while it still lasts?
Yeah.
Like, that's cool.
Well,
and then get excited for like really where we're going.
Yes. And I think a lot of people, including myself, have a hard time seeing that reality, seeing that far to the qualitative data synthesizing and then spitting out
but now
some
that I
answers.
Say it, you get it now.
I could totally, I can get it. And I can see a time between now and then, obviously, where we have, and one of the things that you've also gotten me really excited about is GovTech. I never thought I'd say I was excited about GovTech, but I really am excited about GovTech.
Very excited.
Yeah, it's really good. And so what you've helped me to see as part of the work you're doing with the United Independent Movement is helping to bring forward the GovTech that gets to get installed throughout all of the governmental systems so that we can participate eventually to that qualitative thing, but even just in the meantime. Just like being able to participate directly, not having to go wait in lines and do a whole rigmarole, like being able to just do it right there in our computers and giving people real access and the ability to participate just with a vote.
So this whole notion of does voting matter, which we're using almost as a metaphor to represent civic engagement. Because the vote is so that like metaphor, like I voted, I participated, right?
You get your little sticker.
And I want to first take that notion and break it apart into a million pieces, because we want the notion of participation to be so much vaster than voting. We want people to participate, their insights, their perspective, their time, their energy, their skills, their expertise, all of that. That's the synergistic democracy that Barbara Marx Hubbard has prophesied of. It means that we're not collaborating democratically through our quantitative votes. We're collaborating through our capabilities. We're giving in. That's the synergistic democracy. So that's really exciting. And yes, we want to utilize this quantitative voting system absolutely the best of our ability because it's so important. We have the ability to determine who holds significant aspects of power to steward our collective. And so this is a great moment in time for us to improve everything about that process. So how people vote, how they get involved with the election processes, how organizers get involved, who candidates are, what they're motivated by, how candidates are supported to run effective campaigns, what is a campaign, what's the purpose of a campaign, what's the body and the shape of a campaign, right? Because what got us here isn't what's going to get us there. So this whole system's evolving, and I think that's going to create a more enjoyable playground for us to be more actively involved in the voting process, both for who gets elected and also the legislation that we're voting for. And that, yes, GovTech can increase that accessibility. And I think that, there was a moment in time where you didn't have an app, where there was a button you could push and a car came to you. So you had to like walk or drive or ask your friend or call a cab. Those are like your options, right? But now you just like have an app and you push a button. So like that metaphorically, we don't yet have this like one app that allows us to fully interface with government. And I believe that's coming, and we're going to be creating it. So just like Uber or Lyft transformed a person's relationship to transportation, this new layer of GovTech is going to transform people's relationship to government, allowing them to get access to more information that's synthesized or refined or communicated to them in a way that's appropriate and understandable, the ability to input their perspective into more aspects of the process and the channel, the ability to have more optics in to what's happening in the halls of power around things that could affect their lives, and being able to really be fully engaged, and then to be able to vote from a way more educated position. Because if you're more involved, you have more optics, more interested, then you care more, and now you're asking better questions how you're voting for it. It matters to you more because this person's going to do this and this person's not going to do this. Now you're like more engaged because it's kind of like fantasy football. Like you get really excited about it, but we want to do that with governments. People are like tracking it and excited about it and actually talking about it. And isn't that this like romantic idea of like like the Republic 200 years ago, people like actually cared and they were like discussing the like local policies. And did you hear that we allocated a budget for that? Oh my gosh, that's so interesting. Like that thing, but like we actually like bring it back. Because actually, what's more interesting than we just allocated $500,000 to support homelessness in our community?
Right.
What's more interesting than that?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we just rolled out this program that allows more people access to healing modalities.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we're doing this thing that's like planting 1,000 fruit trees in our community to create a food forest. Like that is like yeah, okay, the quarterback throws the ball, catch, win the game. That's exciting. Don't get me wrong. That's really an exciting moment. But like we have the ability to get so excited about improving our communities.
Yeah.
That we're like in the game and we're thinking about it, and we're talking about it, or participating in it. And that's what's going to create that positive feedback loop, because people aren't disengaged for no good reason.
Yeah.
There's nothing that's inspiring their engagement.
Yeah.
And the more fun that we make the political process and the more positive impact we make, the more it's going to inspire a greater number of people to get involved.
Yeah. GovTech is really, so it's so exciting because it really can do that.
Yeah. And the 3 principles that we're really looking to solve and create with GovTech is making government more transparent, more accountable, and more participatory.
Yeah.
And these are the pillars of a healthy republic that's truly one to do governance of, by, and for the people. And when transparency decreases, when accountability decreases, and when citizen participation decreases, then that governmental system gets sick.
Mm-hmm.
And so we are in a sick republic.
Yeah.
And when you increase transparency and you increase accountability and you increase empowered citizen participation, then that system begins to heal.
Yeah.
So these are the 3 medicines that we want to bring forward.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all so facilitated by improved governance technologies, governance culture, and governance policies.
And this is really what the United Independent Movement is about.
That is correct.
Yes. And what I just got in this conversation as well is that as independent candidates are running and can run on a platform that includes what you've been talking about, bringing GovTech into their communities, bringing more transparency, accountability, and participation, and then even educating their communities about politics and how to work with the government and how to create together and how to make choices together and how to celebrate, that is such an amazing platform for an independent person.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've heard me say this a bunch of times, and now you'll get it even one degree further, which is the way that we build a united independent movement amongst independents that have come from a range of different ideological backgrounds. Right? You're not going to build that platform on the topic of abortion. What are you going to build the platform on? The topic of improving governance.
Yeah.
Because it's the thing that people want from across this ideological spectrum. Right? So the jokes on the left and the right that thought that we would never be able to unite across the spectrum, because they've been doing such an amazing job. Round of applause for them for maintaining the polarization. They've been working this thing like crazy to get us all like, right? But we're gonna freaking flank this thing from the side or whatever. We're gonna shock them. We're gonna shock the existing system by revealing how intensely unifying the focus of improving governance can be across this entire system that they thought they had locked down on with the hyperpolarization tactics.
It's so fantastic.
So we use governance as the unifying thing, and we also use it as the justification to stay in coalition, because there's something that we all want, even though we might have different moral positions with different things. But that's okay, because independent people are able to collaborate with people that have some differences to them, because they can identify the areas they do have common ground and work coherently to achieve that rational interest. That's what makes them independent. Yeah. If you're in a thing, then you say, oh, I can't work with them because they're ... They're the other side, they're this whatever. So there's these like judgments that keep people out of collaboration. But a truly powerful person doesn't have that. They have the ability to collaborate whenever there's common ground, and then just maturely recognize that you have other differences along the way. So we want to be like bringing this collaboration all the way through. And
this is actually perfect because I just want to bring it back to the judgments piece, because this ties back to the very beginning of what we were talking about as each person's collective purpose.
Mhm.
Because it's not each person's purpose, individual or collective, to run for office, to be the independent candidate. And so then the question becomes, okay, so for an independent-minded person who's not going to run for office, doesn't want to run for office, where do they get to come in? And I think you look at where your judgments are.
Mhm.
Because it is in where your judgments are that you want to make change, that you see places that things could be better. And I think that the United Independent Movement is really about not just helping the independent candidates to bring a platform of improving governance, but as well to educate the people of how to use their judgments to claim their purpose and shift and inspire them. So it's, instead of being in this like, oh, life sucks reality, it's like, oh my God, I can influence life. I can influence in my community, not because I'm a mayor or a city council person, but because I know how to work with them.
Yeah.
And I know how to create together, and I know how to choose.
Mhm.
And so what that brings me to is to the Independent National Convention. And it's coming up, and September 17th through 19th in Denver. And what I'd like to understand is how does the Independent National Convention fit into everything that we've talked about today with purpose and with GovTech and with independent candidates and with people who aren't independent candidates but are independent minded and are looking to be activated into their own purpose.
Right. We have an existing political system that's been controlled by the interplay between the Republican and Democratic parties for a long time. And because those parties are so long-standing established, they've got a lot of roots into a lot of other types of interests. And over time, that system is becoming more and more effective at, at exploiting the public institutions for personal gain. And and then anything that's trying to come in and create a type of positive innovation that challenges those profit interests, they have more power to actually push down an innovation. So I want to lay a math equation you might have never thought about before. Okay. So the reason that independence is so important is because when you get a bunch of votes behind your mayor or your county commissioner or your state legislator, and you get more votes than a Republican or Democrat for an independent, then you just took somebody who's not bolted into the system, which is really an independent American citizen steward, which is exactly what the founder of this country intended to run the country. Did not intend for parties to run the country, but for individual citizen stewards to temporarily hold certain positions of public office and then go back to their farm. Like, that's the idea. That's a healthy form of a republic. So when you put an independent into an office, then this whole system doesn't have the same control. So now it's not able to resist the innovations in the same way. Because now this mayor, and let's say has executive budget capacity. So some cities, like the city council does the budget. Some cities, the mayor can control the budget or whatever, or some combination of the two. Let's say in this situation, the mayor controls the budget ultimately. So you just put somebody into the position of city stewardship that has the ability to control the budget. And these people are like, wait, but we used to control the budget and the policies and the things. And now the independents say, sorry, I do. Take a hike. And now it can actually be sympathetic and aligned with and connected to the real intents and desires of the community to improve their quality of life. Because most political elected officials, I think most is accurate, or at least a lot of them, are feigning to serve public interest while actually serving private interests. So there's this whole kind of like disconnection that's happening.
Yeah.
You feel a different transmission when somebody's in office and they're all in for holding and serving that public interest.
But why does that happen? Why is it that like a mayor or a city council person would be tied to a left or a right or a Republican or Democrat? Like, where does that come in?
Yeah, so it comes in different ways depending on how high up the stack you are in government. In Congress, you're basically just like told how to vote. And if you don't vote that way, you're not going to get the nomination next election cycle. You're not going to get the budget. You're not going to get reelected.
Mm.
You'll be punitized in a whole bunch of ways because they have so much power.
Mm.
So when you're a congressperson, you're very, very, very controlled. I'd say the lower down you get, the less direct the control is, but it's still there. So if you are wanting to fundraise for your mayoral campaign, even if it's a nonpartisan campaign, you're still fundraising from your Republican constituents. If you're like a Republican, for example, these are your friends, these are people that know you, these are people who see you as having values aligned with them, and that's why they're supporting you. So you still have to kind of like hold a certain position within the community that reinforces whatever the certain standards that community is opting into as a part of the Republican or Democratic Party or whatever. So there's just certain expectations placed on people all the way through.
And when a truly independent-minded American runs for office and they're not tied into that system of polarization, and I guess I would say, especially if they're running on a unification platform.
Correct.
A unification platform
intending to improve governance.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not ideological.
Yeah. So I mean, so there's all these different layers of improving governance. One is technology, one is policy, but one is culture. And culture is how we think and act together in intentional ways that we habituate. And so even how we think is a part of this improvement of governance. We have to think more sovereignly. We have to analyze data through our own unique lenses and through our own life experience and through our own perspectives in order to produce a unique insight that allows us to contribute a unique insight back to the system, because that's what the system needs from us. It needs our unique insights to help us to do better sense making. If we're all doing groupthink, our sense making is like shit.
Yeah.
Right. And the more we're all thinking for ourselves, the more unique perspective we're having on a particular situation.
So I want to come back to the Independent National Convention, because my sense of what's happening there is that independent-minded Americans are coming together to learn how to do exactly what you just said, to make sense together.
Yeah, or to start the conversation. Yeah, ultimately, this is like a 10-year, 20-year journey.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is we're assembling the people that know they want to be a part of creating this.
Yes.
I'm not even doing it yet, to be honest. We're still bringing it all together.
Yes.
So the people that say, I think we should really put a societal prioritization on improving governance, come.
Yeah.
People are like, oh crap, we've got a whole bunch of like a clusterfuck of systemic corruption. I'm really worried about that. Come. Oh, I've got all these different innovations. I'm an artist. I'm a farmer. I'm a healer. I'm a creator. I'm an inventor. I see all these visions for how to improve society. Come.
Systems change people.
Systems change people. The people with the enormous heart that are just like, I can't take any more of the suffering.
Yeah.
And I want a world where everyone's cared for.
Yeah.
Come.
Yeah.
Because we're all gathering at the Independent National Convention so we can assert our commitment to our own independence and to be united in that process. Because the thing that unites all of us is that we've declared independence from the trajectory that we started our lives on. We started it from our family told us to believe this way, and we're part of this political party, we're part of this religion, had these cultural limited beliefs, and like we've all had to like declare independence to become an independent person. And then that's a requisite to governing more effectively. So when we talk about the Independent National Convention, when we talk about United Independence, when we talk about a renaissance of civic engagement, when we talk about improving the quality of governance, we're talking about building a movement that neither runs away from the political process nor engages on the playing field of the existing political process. It's a group that's committed like a phoenix to actually transcend the current political paradigm and bring a whole new paradigm of politics and civics and governance forward. Yeah. And in order to do that, we're going to have to become experts at working the existing system. It's like we've got to, and the most important skill to learn is how to get more votes. Because if you get more votes, then that's the highest leverage activity to get more of that type of thing happening. So what we're doing as an organization is we're building a national infrastructure to support independent candidates around the country to be more effective at running campaigns and getting more votes by way of financial infrastructure, narrative, technology, organizer networks, all the different pieces the way that a Republican or Democratic candidate is capacitated by being in those respective parties, we're just taking all of the base infrastructure and creating it for a movement that can be able to access all of it, so that as we have more and more Americans that are saying, I don't know if I buy this two-party system thing anymore, we're like, come on over here, because we can get people elected in this vehicle. We can be able to help people that are in the existing elected office as a Republican or Democrat. They're like, I want to resign. We say, you can resign from your party affiliation
Because we've got you.
because we can support you in getting reelected. So when we build the organizational and movement based infrastructure to become really good at getting votes, that is the highest leverage move that we can make to start to catapult this whole theory of change we've been talking about into fruition. So we're here because we want that better world. That's why we're here. What we're going to do to be able to get that is build a movement that can get more votes from people in the existing establishment to be able to move independent American citizen stewards into office at all scales: mayors, governors, national Congress, the executive branch. Ultimately, we're going to just do this whole conversion play where every year that goes by, more of the government is occupied by more people that are motivated by improving governance and driving radically important systems change. So if that is inspiring to you or to you or anybody else,
Yes.
then that is why we're doing the Independent National Convention, because it's an invitation to commit to creating that together,
Yeah.
and an opportunity to have a little bit more visibility on how you can plug in and participate. And it's going to be a long journey
Yeah.
of more people getting more involved, but things kind of like happen in these like concentric circles. So we're calling in the next layer of collaborators
Yeah.
that are like ready because they've got the insights or the reach or the technologies or the vision
Or the
desire or the resources, whatever piece they've got. And we're calling that in to then be able to enable the next stage of this mission. You know, a spiral staircase, it starts here and then it kind of goes away from here, but then it like comes back to here, and it's like back where it started, but a story up. So I feel like that's where we're at right now with the American Revolution. They've gone through a full arc, a full cycle, and we're back here again. We're clearly not where we were before, but we're also where we were before, right? So it's a moment in time to realize that we're at this huge societal skill choice point. And it's kind of the foundational principles of the first Declaration of Independence was that we didn't want a parliamentary monarch to control us on the other side of the ocean where we were taxed but didn't have representation, because that didn't feel good for us. We wanted a different thing. And we wanted to self-govern. And so we declared independence from Britain. And we activated this whole amazing experiment. And then that experiment was, can we do governance of, by, and for the people, like we've been talking about, in a way that keeps generating public benefit without being undermined by bad actors? That's ultimately what the experiment was. And in a lot of ways, we learned a lot that was actually really positive. But in a lot of ways, we learned about how bad actors could enter into systems that were designed to not allow bad actors in, because we're just so sneaky, right? So it's corrupted the kind of pure origins of this experiment. So it's been deteriorating, and it's moving into a state of collapse and decay and atrophy. And so then now we're back here again to realize that we either just die, it just keeps getting worser and worser, and then we're in this like dystopic future, or we say, oh no, actually, let's integrate all the lessons learned from when we started this experiment and use it to reset the system, and use the devotion on how do we improve governance that was at the founding of this country. How do we do governance like this in this totally innovative way, right? They were referencing all these philosophers and this whole like philosophical experience, like how do we do this? And that was euphoric for them. It drove them. So we can access that same energy today and say, okay, how are we going to re-govern ourselves? How are we going to declare independence from the momentum of the past? And how are we going to reset the system and make sure that all the lessons we learned about how to do governance of, by, and for the people are better implemented? And now we have electricity and technology and a whole bunch of other tools we didn't have when we did it. So doesn't that seem like a natural moment in time to like revisit this conversation, right? And what's interesting is that we have these planets going around the sun that act as this like clock, right? Like this, we have this year, and then there's like the Saturn year, there's like 27 years. We've got all these different scales. Well, Pluto is this kind of like wide-reaching aspect of the clock in the solar system, and Pluto's cycle is 248 years. So today, 2024, is exactly 248 years from 1776.
Right.
Right now.
Pluto's in the
Pluto.
same spot. Mm-hmm.
So Pluto, which kind of has this astrological reference of the rise and fall of empires, is back exactly where it was. And since it's moving through time, it actually did a spiral, but that's a whole other thing. And so I believe that the clock of the solar system is striking revolution. Mm-hmm. And it's reawakening. We're reawakening this founding spirit.
Yeah.
And that whoever chooses to engage gets the opportunity to be a founding parent of what happens next. Right? We had founding fathers before, but we have founding parents this next time. And so everyone's invited to really show up. And there's a point I wanted to make from a previous point where you mentioned that not everybody's going to be the mayor.
Yeah.
And I really get that. But I want to invite an inverted thought around it, because I want everybody to sit in bed and meditate for a couple minutes a day on what it would be like to be the president, and what that responsibility would be, and what decisions they would make, and what international policies they would get involved with, and what wars they would enter or not enter. Like, I want everyone to imagine that they're the president for a couple minutes. Then I want them to think about their town and imagine they were the mayor of their town. I want them to look at their town through the lens of a mayor, and what's working and what's not working, what could be improved, and how can we address those things. Then I want people to ask themselves, do I want to be a mayor or a president? And if they say no, then it's kind of like I don't want to do that. So now I'm actually going to really support whoever does.
Yeah.
Because it's so important, and I'm so clear I don't want to do that. Right? So what I want to say is not like there's like these elected officials and there's like everyone else. There's everybody who's ultimately obligated to some degree as a citizen of the United States of America to be willing to lead a city. And what's true is a lot of people get off the hook. They get a hall pass where they don't have to do that thing. So I want to be more thinking about like feeling like let off the hook by not having to be the mayor. Mm-hmm. Then I want people to think about like, oh, I'm not that, so I'm this other thing. And now, okay, since I'm not that, let me make sure I at least play my role. Otherwise, I might get tapped in by the politics karma police and end up having to be that. Uh-huh. So I'm going to like really participate and show up where I'm positioned in that whole thing. And so I say all of that because everybody has a role to play. Yeah. And I want everybody to see that they are an integral part of creating our thriving future. And so all are invited to see themselves as a founding parent of all to come. Because let's just like look at this philosophically for a second. We're right here, right? It's whatever, August something, 2024. And so in time, we're right here, right? And then everything out there is this future that's coming. Mm-hmm. And the butterfly effect, right? Like every choice we make has like an infinite ripple into all that will ever be. So all of the people and all of the plants and animals and all the things are going to be affected by the choices that we make now. So when I say we're a founding parent, I want you to think about the choice you make as like the inception point and what occurs next as the child. So we're parenting what's coming forth from us in the things that we prioritize and choose. And when we really are consciously aware of the fact that the totality of the existence of the future is actually impacted by the quality of the choices that we make today and in this moment, then it evokes a greater sense of motivation and meaning and significance to participate. Yeah. Because let's face it, every one of our total experiences of existence are based upon choices that people in the past made. This isn't some like philosophical hypothesis. This is just like practical stuff
Yeah.
to work with. And so that, I think, is the punchline at the end of this whole thing, is remembering that the choices you make have a direct effect on the future that you create. And the better quality choices that we make with the greater number of people in harmonic concert, the more powerful we become at producing more of that better world. And that is at the core of what politics means. That is why we are throwing the Independent National Convention. That is an elaborate, extended invitation to come and to join and to participate and to celebrate
Yeah.
the truth of our calling together.
The way that it fits into my understanding of life and legacy, and the reason that I stayed being an estate planning attorney when I discovered what estate planning actually is, it's exactly what you just talked about, but at the family level. So it's politics at the family level.
Yeah.
And that's really what life and legacy planning is all about. So it just all ties in such a perfect way. And before we close, I just wanted to speak for a moment about Robert F. Kennedy and his choice, Jr. and his choice, and what his, after I was heartbroken at first, and then once I felt the sadness, but what it did for me is it actually helped me to recognize how important it is for the independent movement to actually do exactly what you've talked about here today, to create the GovTech, to give the independent stewards who are going to be in office a platform of improved government technology, to help us align beyond our ideologies, to really unite us beyond our ideologies. And that RFK needed to do what he did because we haven't done it yet. And it was just this beacon to show me, oh, we just need to do it more. We just need to do it more. He wants it.
Yeah, 100%.
He would have totally stayed in it if we had done it already.
100%. So check this out, okay? So 3 years ago, my friend is running for mayor in Clinton, Mississippi. And he's like, come help me run my campaign. I was like, I would love to. So I drive across country to Mississippi, and he's running as an independent against this Republican. And so, like, there was a decent probability of a win here. And I wanted to go, and I wanted to, like, help this independent mayor get elected. And so we ran this campaign for a couple months in Clinton, and we lost very poorly to the incumbent that was reelected to a surprising degree.
Yeah.
I was like, I thought it'd be closer. Like, we worked really hard. We knocked on a lot of doors. We did a lot of work. You know, a lot of people said they're going to vote for him that didn't vote for him or never showed up to vote at all. So it's kind of like, oh, crap. And as I was driving home from Mississippi, because it was in Mississippi, so I had a long drive home, I was reflecting upon, like, what am I gonna do? Because back then I thought that independents were just right about to break through.
Yeah.
And I came out of that experience and I realized everything that he didn't have as a campaign. There was no community. There was no narrative of being an independent. There was no existing funder base that were looking for the next independent to fund. The media stations weren't primed to know how to talk about an independent. Like, he didn't have good technology to run his campaign. Like, he didn't have any training or grooming to prepare for that process. Like, I could go on and on and on and on. And as I'm driving away, I'm inventorying all of the, like, functional infrastructure of running an effective campaign that he did not have available to him. And if you run as a Republican or Democrat, then you have this whole community to plug into. And if you run as an independent, you literally have, like, your wife and your, like, kid and your, like, red flyer, like station wagon that you're pulling behind you, and like a USA balloon. That's all you got, right? And you got to, like, turn that into something, and that's a hard thing to do. Yeah. So they keep failing. Yeah. So I'm going somewhere, I promise.
I got you.
So I walked away from this, and I was like, we need to build the infrastructure at a national scale. Yeah. And so the very assessment that you're making is actually the very same assessment at a smaller scale that motivated this entire journey. And so I completely agree. I think it's a very astute assessment that I haven't heard anybody else say exactly the way you're saying it. And I agree, and it fully legitimizes what we're doing, why we're doing it. That if he had the support in place, more financial resources, more reach, a stronger narrative to plug into, greater capacity to do coalition building amongst US independents, and he could have become the president, he would have seen that all the way through.
Totally.
And then we'd be having an even cooler conversation about what RFK was going to do as the president of the United States of America. And so I think that that's absolutely what we're supposed to do. And in 2026, we have a whole practice on how to run this entire apparatus and put a block of independence into Congress. And that's going to develop a lot of skills and connective tissue and relationships and best practices and trust, so that we're actually ready in 2028 to put a larger block of independence into Congress. And I believe that we'll be ready to put an independent right through the front door of the White House with that infrastructure in place.
Yeah. And also have all of the local activation
also coming online.
Coming online at those mayor and city council, county commissioner, governor levels, that
all of
it all gets to happen as we really stand up as independent-minded Americans.
Yeah, and through all those local campaigns, everybody has a context to be directly involved.
Yeah.
And they might care more about what's happening on nationally if they're actually caring more what happens locally, because now they're just like more tied in that body politic of caring. So the local elections are where we like activate the entire populace. They're where we train. Right? We train to run campaigns. We train to be candidates. We train to be elected officials. We train to govern.
And work with the government, level. Right? Like if I'm a farmer, I want to be trained to work within the government that I'm part of, so that I can be part of the whole and do my part.
And it's all a community of practice. We're practicing getting people elected. We're practicing governing. We're practicing civic engagement. We're practicing transparency, accountability, and participation. The CivTech. Any technology you've deployed in your company, isn't there a learning curve for your staff to learn how to use some basic thing? It's like this whole learning curve, right? So we have to like go through the learning curve of improving governance. And we practice that and develop that at local level.
And making choice together. I think
that's the core of it. That's the core of it. We recognize the significance of making choices together. So we apply a greater degree of care and participation in the choice-making process, which then allows us to make better choices. So we realize, oh, wow, it's really special that we have the ability to make choices together. Let's take that seriously and make really good choices. Right? And you as an estate planner, you'd have the same conversation with aging parents, and let's make a really good choice here that's going to set the future up for success. Yeah.
Well, thank you. And if you really care and you want to find your place, I think that's really like what calls to me the most out of all of this is like,
find your place and affirm your place. Because there's a lot of people that actually kind of know a little bit, and they need to show up and express that directly and say like, I've got a role here. And that's an act of courage. It can be vulnerable because we might have got rejected as kids and sort of, but like ultimately all just like, what's your piece? Because you probably maybe have some sense of what it is.
And that's why we need to come together,
see each other, and build those relationships and know how all the synergy infrastructure of the community works.
And we're gonna have a good time while we do it. There's a whole party happening.
There's a party every night. There's a party every night. We've got great keynotes. We've got great panels. We've got great side presentations. We're hitting the topics of participatory governance and GovTech and movement building and campaign. So everything
and purpose
and everything we've been talking about is literally like what the event is. So we can all get educated and more aware and more inspired. And then the event isn't the have all end all, but it activates people in a particular way that makes them ready to go on the next leg of the journey. And then our organization, United Independence, and the United Independent Movement is the path that we're inviting people to step on. And so the INC is going to be awesome. It's going to be in Denver. It's going to be September 17th through 19th. It's going to be full of people who care. And I think that anybody who comes will have some parts of themselves that are very different from everyone else there
Yeah,
because we're independent.
that's right.
And there'll be a part of them that feels really at home.
Mm.
It's the part of us that knows that we have a role to play. It's the part of us that knows that declaring independence right now is the right thing to do. It's a part of us that knows that we got to work on the system at the system level, not just like hacking at the leaves of the issues. It's time to get to the roots of the issue.
Systems change.
It's the people that have devoted themselves to be innovators. That's this like commonality that I think people experience for everyone that's there.
Well, I'm excited. And we'll see you at the INC.
So if this resonated with you, if you feel called, if you feel activated, if you feel like something in your heart in this moment is speaking to you and feeling buoyant and alive and energized, then I would say that's an indication that you should probably come. And if that's the case, then go to inc24.us and register for your ticket. Get your ticket right away. And then you're going to have to start figuring out your accommodations pretty quickly and your travel. So figure out your accommodations, your travel, and get your ticket.
There is volunteer opportunities.
There are volunteer opportunities and there are scholarship opportunities. So it's price flexible for people that need it. Those look on our footer for our volunteer and our scholarship applications. And then start to connect into the community. We have a WhatsApp group that we'd love everybody to join once they register and be a part of it, so we can kind of get the conversation going. Then look on the website at the program and notice all the different programming and start to kind of pick your favorite points and start to get a vision for yourself of not only that you're going to an event, but what experience you're actually creating for yourself. Right? You're going to have these amazing sessions that are going to be exactly fascinating for you. You're going to have these amazing meals. We're going to connect to people and do the networking thing. And you have these awesome parties where will be dance and music and spoken word and art and performance. And start to like envision what that experience is going to be like for you by looking at the schedule. Also look at the presenters and the speakers and notice who on that list you're familiar with, that you already like, that you might be excited to meet in person because they'll be at that event, or people you're curious about. Do some Googling, find out who all these wonderful people are. You can look at their bios. And then once you really see like how exciting it is to come to this amazing event, then tell people about it. And so that's my next ask is if you are inspired to come, then be an ambassador. And I think we've just made your job really easy because just share this same video that inspired you with them and say, watch this thing and then here's the link. And then let's just share that. As a little bit of a kind of viral play to make sure that it gets to all the right people, because one of your first acts of political stewardship could be to have the vision and the purpose to share this with a couple people. That's actually an act that's very, very meaningful. So I invite you to consider if you want to come, and whether you come or not, I invite you to think about 3 to 5 people that you think would be interested in this message and send them it and encourage them to watch it.
And for those of you that are in this place of saying, but it's too soon, it's too soon. Some of the events that I've gone to in my life that have created the most change in my life, where I met the most important people in my life, where I created so much as a result of going to the events and having an experience that changed my perspective or introduced me to my next best friend or my next life partner, they were last minute. They were last minute. In fact, the very thing that introduced me to the entire trajectory of my career, I had a 6-month-old and a 4-year-old, and my husband staying at home. I just started my business. I didn't think I had any money. And I met a mentor, and he said, you got to come to Florida and come to this event. I was like, I can't come to this event. It's like in a week. And he said, do what you can to get there. And I used my airline miles, and the hotel room was $79. So like that back then, I could do that. And had my husband come because I was still nursing. So he needed to bring up both of our kids with us. And I did it.
Wow.
And it changed my life. It completely changed the trajectory of my life in the best way possible. And so, you only have one life. And I think that's a really great decision to make if you're feeling called in your heart. And I look forward to seeing you.
And I want to do you a little favor real quick as we're winding down here, because at INC 23, we had a bunch of people that got there on day one that were texting all their friends from around the country, you have to come to this. And then people were then making the last minute decision where the flights are the highest and the dollar amount at the door is more, and you have the greater like rupture impact on your world. And so you might actually end up there one way or another, So do yourself the favor
Yeah.
to like buy your ticket, your plane ticket 2 weeks sooner when it's half as much,
Right.
and get the current rate before the rates of the price of the thing go up. And also get your room
Yeah.
at our hotel before the hotel fills up, because we're at the Denver Marriott. There's only 500 rooms in the building. Those rooms will likely get filled by attendees, and so you don't want to be like down the road
Right.
with like an expensive flight, paying twice as much at the door in a motel down the road when
Right.
everyone's having a good time like on the location.
Totally.
So now is the moment in time where in one regard it might seem like it's kind of short, but you actually have enough to like do yourself the favor of like making the decision now.
That's right.
So that it can be, you get the smoothest, most elevated experience.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. See you at the INC.
See you at the INC.
See you at the INC.
See you at the INC.